Excellent. Brief little description for anyone who might be watching this YouTube live video later. We are continuing with our reading of Ulysses, of course, and we are going to be reading the section called Lotus Eaters. This is just after Leopold Bloom has left his wife Molly, and he's beginning his day away from home. And with that, I will begin reading. By lorries along Sir John Rogerson's quay, Mr. Bloom walked soberly past Windmill Lane. Leaks, the linseed crushers, the postal telegraph office. Could have given that address too, and passed these sailors home. He turned from the morning noises by the quay. Okay, we need some muting going on because we're getting a little leaking. So if you're not muted, please mute until just before it's your turn to read. Thanks. Um, he turned from the morning noises by the quayside and walked through Lime Street. By Brady's cottages, a boy for the skins lolled, his bucket of offal linked, smoking a chewed fag butt. A smaller girl with scars of eczema on her forehead eyed him, listlessly holding her battered cask hoop. Tell him if he smokes, he won't grow? Ah, let him. His life isn't such a bed of roses. Waiting outside pubs to bring Da home. Come home to Ma, Dad. Slack hour. Won't be many there. He crossed Townsend Street, past the frowning face of Bethel. Yes, house of Aleph, Beth, and past Nichols, the undertakers. At 11 it is, time enough. Dare say Corny Kelleher bagged that job for O'Neill's. Singing with his eyes shut, Corny. Met her once in the park, in the dark. What a lark! Please tout. Her name and address, she then told with my turaloom, turaloom, turaloom tag. Oh, surely he bagged it. Bury him cheap and a what-you-may-call with my turaloom, 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 turaloom. Next reader, please.
In Western Row, he halted before the window of the Belfast and Oriental Tea Company and read the legends of lead paper packets. Choice blend, finest quality, family tea. Rather warm, tea. Must get some from Tom Kiernan. Couldn't ask him at a funeral, though. While his eyes still read blankly, he took off his hat, quietly inhaling his hair oil, and sent his right hand with slow grace over its brow, and hair. Very warm morning. Under their dropped lids, his eyes found the tiny bow of the leather headband inside his high-grade hat. Just there. His right hand came down into the bowl of his hat. His fingers found quickly a card behind the headband and transferred it to his waistcoat pocket. So warm. His right hand once more slowly went over again. Choice blend, made of the finest Ceylon tea brands, the Far East. Lovely spot it must be, the garden of the world. Big lazy leaves to float about on. Cactuses, flowery meads, staken lianas, they call them. Next, please. That'll be it.
Wonder, wonder, is it like that? Those chincolees lobbing about in the sun, dulce per niente. Not doing a hand's turn all day. Sleep 6 months out of 12. Too hot to quarrel. Influence of the climate. Lethargy, flowers of idleness. The air feeds most. Air zones. Hothouse and botanic gardens. Sensitive plants, water lilies. Leaves too tired to. Sleeping sickness in the air. Walk on rose leaves. Imagine trying to eat tripe and cow heel. Where was the chap I saw in that picture somewhere? Ah, yes, in the Dead Sea, floating on his back, reading a book with a parasol open. Couldn't sink if you tried. So thick with salt. Because of the weight of the water. No, the weight of the body in the water is equal to the weight of the what? Or is it the volume is equal to the weight? It's a law, something like that. Vance in high school cracking his finger joints teaching. This college curriculum, cracking curriculum. What is the weight really when you say the weight? 32 feet per second per second. Law of falling bodies per second per second. They all fall to ground. The earth. It's the force of gravity of the earth is the weight. He turned away and sauntered across the road. How did she walk with her sausages? Like that something. As he walked, he took the folded Freeman from his side pocket, unfolded it, rolled it lengthwise in a batten, and tapped it at each sauntering step against his trouser leg. Careless air. Just drop in to see. Per second, per second. Per second for every second it means. From the curbstone he darted a keen glance through the door of the post office. Too late box. No one in. Next.
He handed the card through the brass grill. "Are there any letters for me?" he asked. While the postmistress searched a pigeonhole, he gazed at the recruiting poster with soldiers of all arms on parade and held the tip of his baton against his nostrils, smelling fresh printed rag paper. No answer, probably. Went too far last time. The postmistress handed him back through the grill his card with a letter. He thanked her and glanced rapidly at the typed envelope. Henry Flower, Esquire, care of P.O. Westland Row, City. Answered, anyhow. He slipped card and letter into his side pocket, reviewing again the soldiers on parade. Where's old Tweedy's regiment? Cast-off soldier. There, bearskin cap and hackle plume. No, he's a grenadier. Pointed cuffs. Ah, there he is. Royal Dublin Fusiliers. Redcoats, too showy. That must be why the women go after them. Uniform. Easier to enlist and drill. Maud Gunn's letter about taking them off O'Connell Street at night. Disgrace to our Irish capital. Griffith's paper is on the same tack now. An army rotten with venereal disease, overseas or half seas over empire. Half-baked they look, hypnotized like. Ice front, mark time, table, able, bed, Ed, the king's own. Never see him dressed up as a fireman or a bobby. A mason? Yes. He strolled out of the post office and turned to the right. Talk as if that would mend matters. His hand went into his pocket and a forefinger felt its way under the flap of the envelope, ripping it open in jerks. Women will pay a lot of heed, I don't think. His fingers drew forth the letter and crumpled the envelope in his pocket. Something pinned on. Photo, perhaps? Hair? No. McCoy, get rid of him quickly. Take me out of my way. Hate company when you... Hello, Bloom. Where are you off to? Hello, McCoy. Nowhere in particular. How's the body? Fine. How are you? Just keeping alive, McCoy said. His eyes on the black tyne clothes, he asked with low respect, "Is there no trouble, I hope? I see you're..." "Oh, no," Mr. Bloom said. "Poor Dignam, you know. The funeral is today." "To be sure, poor fellow. So it is. What time?" A photo it isn't, a badge maybe. 11, Mr. Bloom answered. I must try to get out there, McCoy said. 11, is it? I only heard it last night. Who was telling me? Holohan. You know Hoppy? I know. Mr. Bloom gazed across the road at the outsider drawn up before the door of the Grosvenor. The porter hoisted the valise up on the well. She stood still, waiting while the man, husband, brother, like her, searched his pockets for change. Stylish kind of coat with that roll collar. Warm for a day like this. Looks like blanket cloth. Careless stand of her with her hands in those patch pockets, like that haughty creature at the polo match. Women all for caste till you touch the spot. Handsome is and handsome does. Reserved about to yield. The Honorable Mrs. and Brutus is an honorable man. Possess her once, take the starch out of her. Next.
I was with Bob Doran. He's on one of his periodical bends. And what you call them, Bantam Lions, just down there in Conway's we were. Doran, Lions in Conway. She raised a gloved hand to her hair. In came Hoppy, having a wet, drawing back his head, and gazing far from beneath his veiled eyelids, he saw the bright fawn skin shine in the glare of the braided drums. Clearly I can see today. Moisture about gives long sight, perhaps. Talking of one thing or another, laid his hand. Which side will she get up? And he said, sad thing about our poor friend Paddy. What Paddy? I said. Poor little Paddy Dignam, he said. Off to the country. Broadstone, probably. High brown boots, with laces dangling, well-turned foot. What is he foostering over that change for? Sees me looking. I out for the other fellow always. Good fallback. 2 strings to her bow. Why? I said. What's wrong with him? I said. Proud, rich, silk stockings. Yes, Mr. Bloom said. He moved a little to the side of McCoy's talking head. Getting up in a minute. Well, what's wrong with him? He said. He's dead, he said. And faith, he filled up. Is it Paddy Dignam? I said. I couldn't believe it when I heard it. I was with him no later than Friday last, or Thursday. Was it in the Arch? Yes, he said, he's gone. He died on Monday, poor fellow. Watch, watch. Silk, flash, rich stockings white. Watch. A heavy tramcar honking its gong slewed between. Lost it. Curse your noisy pug nose. Feels locked out of it. Paradise and the Perry. Always happening like that. The very moment. Girl in Eustace Street hallway Monday. Was it settling her garter? Her friend covering the display of esprit de corps. Well, what are you gaping at? Yes, Mr. Bloom said after a dull sigh. Another gone. One of the best, McCoy said. Orly.
The tram passed. They drove off towards the Loop Line Bridge, her rich gloved hand on the steel grip. Flicker, flicker. The lace flare of her hat in the sun. Flicker, flick. Wife well, I suppose, McCoy's changed voice said. Oh, yes, Mr. Bloom said. Tip-top, thanks. He unrolled the newspaper batten idly and read idly. What is home without plum trees, potted meat? Incomplete. With it an abode of bliss. My missus has just got an engagement. At least it's not settled yet. Belize tack again. By the way, no harm. I'm off that. Thanks. Mr. Bloom turned his large lidded eyes with unhasty friendliness. My wife too, he said. She's going to sing at a swagger affair in the Ulster Hall, Belfast, on the 25th. That's so, McCoy said. Glad to hear that, old man. Who's getting it up? Next, please.
Gloria, are you still here? Okay, we will go on. Michiko, are you ready?
I lost.
Miss
That
Marion
that's so.
Bloom.
McCoy said, oh, sorry, Belfast on the 25th.
Okay, so you would start where it says Mrs. Marion Bloom. Not,
Mrs.
yeah.
Okay. Mrs. Marion Bloom not appeared. Queen was in her bedroom eating bread and no book. Blackened court cards laid along her tie by sevens. Dark lady and fair man. Cut pearly black ball. Torn strip of envelope. Love's old sweet song comes love's old. It's a kind of a tour, don't you see? Mr. Bloom said thoroughly. Sweet song. There's a committee formed, part shares and part profits. McCoy nodded, picking at his mustache stubble. Oh, well, he said, that's good news. He moved to go. Well, glad to see you looking fit, he said. Me too, looking around. Yes, Mr. Bloom said. Tell you what McCoy said. You might put down my name at the funeral, will you? I'd like to go, but I might be able, you see. There's a drowning case at Sandy Cove, may turn up, and then the coroner and myself would have to go down if the body is found. You just shove in my name if I'm not there, will you? I'll do that, Mr. Bloom said, moving to get off. That'll be all right. Right, McCoy said brightly. Thanks, old man. I'd go if I possibly could. Well, just CP McCoy will do. That will be done, Mr. Bloom answered firmly. Next, please.
Didn't catch me napping that wheeze. The quick touch, soft mark. I'd like my job. Police. I have a particular fancy for leather. Capped corners, riveted edges, double action lever lock. Bob Cowley lent him his for the Wicklow Regatta concert last year, and never heard tidings of it from that good day to this. Mr. Bloom, strolling towards Brunswick Street, smiled. My missus has just got in. Reedy, freckled soprano, cheese-paring nose. Nice enough in its way for a little ballad. No guts in it. You and me, don't you know, in the same boat. Soft, soapy. Give you the needle that would. Can't he hear the difference? Think he's that way inclined a bit. Against my grain somehow. Thought that Belfast would fetch him. I hope that smallpox up there doesn't get worse. Suppose she wouldn't let herself be vaccinated again. Your wife, my wife. Wonder, is he pimping after me? Mr. Bloom stood at the corner, his eyes wandering over the multicolored hoardings. Cantrell and Cochrane's ginger ale aromatic. Clary's summer sale. No, he's going on straight. Hello, Leah tonight. Mrs. Ben Palmer. Like to see her again in that Hamlet she played last night. Male impersonator. Perhaps he was a woman. Why, Ophelia committed suicide. Poor papa. How we used to talk of Kate Bateman in that. Outside the Adelphi in London, waited all the afternoon to get in. Year before I was born, that was. 65. And Ristori in Vienna. What is this right name? Is by Mosenthal it is? Rachel, is it? No. The seed he was always talking about, where the old blind Abraham recognizes the voice and puts his fingers on his face. Nathan's voice, his son's voice. I hear the voice of Nathan, who left his father to die of grief and misery in my arms, who left the house of his father and left the God of his father. Every word is so deeply appalled. Poor man, poor papa. I'm glad I didn't go into the room to look at his face that day. Oh dear, dear. Well, perhaps it was best for him. Next.
Mr. Bloom went round the corner, past the drooping nags of the Hazard. No use thinking of it any more. Nosebag time. Wish I hadn't met that McCoy fellow. He came nearer and nearer and heard a crunching of gilded oats, the gently champing teeth. Her full buck eyes regarded him as he went by, amid all this sweet oaten reek of horse piss. Their Eldorado. Poor Jugginses. Damn all they know or care about anything with their long noses stuck in nosebags. Too full for words. Still, they get their feed all right, and their doss. Gelded, too. A stump of black gutta percha wagging limp between their haunches. Might be happy all the same that way. Good poor brutes they look. Still, their neigh can be very irritating. He drew the letter from his pocket and folded it into the newspaper he carried. Might just walk into her here. The lane is safer. He passed the cabman's shelter. Curious the life of drifting cabbies, all weathers, all places. Timers set down, no will of their own. Voglio e non. Like to give them the odd cigarette. Sociable. Shout a few flying syllables as they pass. He hummed, La si darum la mano, la 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 la. He turned into Cumberland Street and, going on some paces, halted in the lee of the station wall. No one. Meade's timber yard, piled box, ruins and tenements. With a careful tread he passed over a hopscotch court with its forgotten picky stone. Not a sinner. Near the timber yard, a squatted child at marbles, alone, shooting the taw with a cunning thumb. A wise tabby, a blinking sphinx, watched from her warm sill. Pity to disturb them. Mohammed cut a piece out of his mantle not to wake her. Open it. And once I played marbles when I went to that old dame's school. She liked mignonette, Mrs. Ellis's, and Mr. He opened the letter within the newspaper. A flower. I think it's a yellow flower with flattened petals. Not annoyed then. What does she say? Next, please.
Dear Henry, I got your last letter to me, and thank you very much for it. I am sorry you did not like my last letter. Why did you enclose the stamps? I am awfully angry with you. I do wish I could punish you for that. I called you naughty boy because I do not like that other world. Please tell me what is the real meaning of that word. Are you not happy in your home, you poor little naughty boy? I do wish I could do something for you. Please tell me what you think of poor me. I often think of the beautiful name you have. Dear Henry, when will we meet? I think of you so often you have no idea. I have never felt myself so much drawn to a man as you. I feel so bad about. Please read me a long letter and tell me more. Remember, if you do not, I will punish you. So now you know what I will do to you, you naughty boy, if you do not write. Oh, how I long to meet you, Henry dear. Do not deny my request before my patience are exhausted. Then I will tell you all. Goodbye now, naughty darling. I have such a bad headache today, and right by return to your longing Martha. P.S. Do tell me what kind of perfume does your wife use? I want to know. He tore the flower gravely from its pinhole, smelt its almost no smell, and placed it in his hat pocket. Language of flowers, they like it because no one can hear, or a poisoned bouquet to strike him down. Then, Walking slowly forward, he read the letter again, murmuring here and there a word. Angry tulips with you, darling, manflower, punish you, cactus, if you don't please, poor forget-me-not. How I long, violets, the dear roses, when we soon, anemone, meet, all naughty Nightstock, wife, Martha's perfume. Having read it all, he took it from the newspaper and put it back in his side pocket. Weak joy opened his lips. Changed since the first letter. Wonder did she write it herself? Doing the indignant, a girl of good family like me, respectable character, could meet one Sunday after the rosary. Thank you, you not having any. Usual love scrimmage, then running around corners. Bad as a row with Molly. Cigar has a cooling effect. Narcotic. Go further next time. Naughty boy. Punish. Afraid of words, of course. Brutal. Why not? Try it anyhow. A bit at a time. Fingering still the letter in his pocket, he drew a pin out of it. Common pin, eh? He threw it on the road, out of her clothes somewhere, pinned together. Queer the number of pins they always have. No noses without thorns. Flat Dublin voices bawled in his head. Those two sluts that night in the coombe, linked together in the rain. Oh, Mary lost the pin of her drawer. She didn't know what to do, to keep it up, to keep it up. Next, please.
Okay, Gloria, do you know where
Me,
we are?
okay. It's
Mhm.
8 then. Such a bad headache. Has her Rosie probably, or city all day tapping. Eyes focus body for stomach nervous. What perfume does your wife use? Now, could you make out a thing like that? To keep it up, Martha, Mary, I saw that picture somewhere. I forget now, old master or faked for money. He is sitting in the house, talking, mysterious. Also the two slants in the bomber would listen. To keep it up, nice kind of evening feeling. No more wondering about, just low there, white dusk, let everything rip, forget, tell about the place you have been, strange customs. The other one, jar or who had, was gathered the sample, fruit, olives, lovely cold water out of the well, stone cold like the hole in the wall at the Ashtown. Must carry a paper globe. New time I go there, Trotty matters. She listened with big dark soft eyes. Tell her more and more. Oh, then a silence, long rest. Going under the railway arch, he took out the envelope, tore it swiftly, insured and scattered them towards the road. The shreds fluttered away, sinking the dank air. A white flutter then all sank. Hairy flower. You could tee up a check for £100 in the same way. Simple bit of paper. Lord, I once cashed a seven-figure check for £1 million in the Bank of the Ireland. Show you the Monday to be made out of a porter. Still the order brother Lord Adlan has to change his skirt 4 times a day. They say skin breeds, lice, or vermin. £1 million, wait a moment. 2 pence a pint. 4 pence a quart, 8 pence a gallon of porter. No, 1 and 4 pence a gallon of the porter, 1 and 4 into 20, 50 about. 15 about, yes, exactly. 15 millions of the barrels of porter. Okay, next, please.
Okay.
Perfect.
I believe I am next. Yes. What am I saying? Barrels? Gallons. About 1 million barrels, all the same. An incoming train clanked heavily above his head, coach after coach. Barrels bumped in his head. Dull porters slopped and churned inside. The bunghole sprang open, and a large dull flood leaked out, flowing together, winding through mud flats all over the level land. A lazy pooling swirl of liquor bearing down along the wide-leaved flowers of its froth. It reached the open back door of All Hallows. Stepping into the porch, he doffed his hat, took the card from his pocket, and tucked it in again behind the leather headband. Damn it! I might have tried to work McCoy for a past Mullingar. Same notice on the door. Sermon by the Very Reverend John Comney, S.J., on St. Peter, Claver, and the African Mission. Save China's millions. Wonder how they explain it to heathen Chinese. Prefer an ounce of opium. Celestials. Rank heresy for them. Prayers for the conversion of Gladstone they had too when he was almost unconscious. Protestants the same. Convert Dr. William J. Walsh, D.D., to the true religion. Buddha, their God, lying on his side in the museum, taking it easy, with hand under his cheek. Joss sticks burning. Not like Ecce Homo. Crown of thorn and cross. Clever idea, St. Patrick, the shamrock. Chopsticks? Hominy. Martin Cunningham knows him, distinguished looking. Sorry I didn't work him about getting Molly into the choir instead of that Father Farley who looked a fool but wasn't. They're taught that. He's not going out in bluey specks with the sweat rolling off him to baptize blacks, is he? The glasses would take their fancy flashing. Like to see them sitting around in a ring with blub lips, entranced, listening, still life, lap it up like milk, I suppose. Next reader.
The cold smell of sacred stone called him. He trod the worn steps to push the swing door and entered softly by the rear. Something going on. Some sodality. Pity so empty. Nice, discreet place to be next some girl. Who's my neighbour? Jammed by the hour to slow music. That woman at midnight mass. Seventh heaven. Women knelt in the benches with crimson halters round their necks, heads bowed. A batch knelt at the altar rails. The priest went along by them, murmuring, holding the thing in his hands. He stopped at each, took out a communion, shook a drop or two. Are they in water? Off it, and put it neatly into her mouth. Her hat and head sank. Then the next one, a small old woman. The priest bent down to put it into her mouth, murmuring all the time, Latin. The next one. Shut your eyes and open your mouth. What? Corpus, body, corpse. Good idea, the Latin. Stupefies them first. Hospice for the dying. They don't seem to chew it, only swallow it down. Rum idea. Eating bits of a corpse while the cannibals cotton it to it. He stood aside, watching their blind mass pass down the aisle, one by one, and seek their places. He approached a bench and seated himself in its corner, nursing his hat and newspaper. These pots we have to wear. We ought to have hats modelled on our heads. They were about him here and there, with heads still bowed in their crimson halters, waiting for it to melt in their stomachs. Something like those, my thought, is that sort of bread. Unleavened shewbread. Look at them. Now I bet it makes them feel happy. Lollipop. It does, yes. Bread of angels, it's called. There's a big idea behind it. Kind of kingdom of God is within you, you feel. First communicants. Hokey pokey, penny a lump. Then feel all like one family party. Same in the theatre. All in the same swim. They do, I'm sure of that. Not so lonely. In our fraternity, then come about the big spreeish, let off steam. Thing is, if you really believe in it, Lourdes cure, waters of oblivion, and the knock apparition, statues bleeding. Old fellow asleep near that confession box, hence those snores. Blind fate, safe in the arms of kingdom come, lulls all pain. Wake this time next year. Next, please, Sylvia.
He saw the priest stow the communion cup away, well in, and kneel an instant before it, showing a large grey foot sole from under the lace affair he had on. Suppose he lost the pin of his, he wouldn't know what to do. Bald spot behind, letters on the back. INRI, no. IHS. Mommy told me one time I asked her, I've sinned. Or no, I've suffered it is. And the other one, iron nails ran in. Meet one Sunday after the rosary. Do not deny my request. Turn up with a veil in a black bag. Dusk and the light behind her. She might be here with a ribbon round her neck and do the other thing, all the same on the sly. Their character. That fellow that turned Queen's evidence in the Invincibles, he used to receive Carey was his name, the communion every morning. This very church. Peter Carey, yes. No, Peter Claver. I'm thinking of Dennis Carey. And just imagine that. Wife and 6 children at home. And plotting that murder all the time. Those craw thumpers. Now that's a good name for them. There's always something shifty looking about them. They're not straight men of business either. Oh, no, she's not here, the flower. No, no. By the way, did I tear up that envelope? Yes, under the bridge. The priest was rinsing out the chalice. Then he tossed off the dregs smartly. Wine makes it more aristocratic than, for example, if he drank what they used to. If he drank what they're used to, Guinness's porter or some temperance beverage, Wheatley's Dublin hop bitters, or Cantrell and Cochrane's ginger ale, aromatic. Doesn't give them any of it. Slew wine, only the other, cold comfort. Pious fraud, but quite right. Otherwise, they'd have one old boozer worse than the other coming along cadging for a drink. Queer the whole atmosphere of the quite right. Perfectly right, that is. Next.
Mr. Bloom looked back towards the choir. Not going to be any music. Pity. Who has the organ here, I wonder? Old Glynn, he knew how to make that instrument talk. The vibrato. £50 a year, they say, he had in Gardner Street. Molly was in fine voice that day. The Stabat Mater of Rossini. Father Bernard Vaughan's sermon first, Christ or Pilate? Christ, but don't keep us all night over it. Music they wanted. Foot drills stopped. Could hear a pin drop. I told her to pitch her voice against that corner. I could feel the thrill in the air, the people looking up. Quis et homo. Some of that old sacred music splendid. Mercadante, 7 last words. Mozart's 12th Mass. Gloria in that. Those old popes, keen on music, on art and statues and pictures of all kinds. Palestrina, for example, too. They had a gay old time while it lasted. Healthy, too. Chatting, regular hours, then brew liqueurs, Benedictine, green chartreuse. Still, having eunuchs in their choir, that was coming it a bit thick. What kind of voice is it? Must be curious to hear after their own strong basses. Connoisseurs, suppose they wouldn't feel anything after. Kind of a placid, no worry, fall into flesh, don't they? Gluttons, tall, long legs. Who knows, eunuch, one way out of it. He saw the priest bend down and kiss the altar and then face about and bless all the people. All crossed themselves and stood up. Mr. Bloom glanced about him and then stood up, looking over the risen hats. Stand up at the gospel, of course. Then all settled down on their knees again, and he sat back quietly in his bench. The priest came down from the altar holding the thing out from him, and he and the mass boy answered each other in Latin. Then the priest knelt down and began to read off a card. "O God, our refuge and our strength." Mr. Bloom put his face forward to catch the words. English. Throw them the bone. I remember slightly. How long since your last Mass? Glorious and Immaculate Virgin. Joseph, her spouse. Peter and Paul. More interesting if you understood what it was all about. Wonderful organization, certainly. Goes like clockwork. Confession, everyone wants to. Then I will tell you all. Penance, punish me, please. Great weapon in their hands. More than doctor or solicitor. Woman dying too. And and did you, and why did you look down at her ring to find an excuse? Whispering gallery walls have ears. Husband learned to his surprise, God's little joke. Then out she comes, repentant, skin deep. Lovely shame. Pray at an altar, Hail Mary and Holy Mary. Flowers, incense, candles melting. Hide her blushes. Salvation Army, blatant imitation. Reformed prostitute will address the meeting. How I found the Lord. Square-headed chaps, those must be in Rome. They work the whole show. And don't they rake in the money too? Bequests allocated to the PP for the time being in his absolute discretion. Masses for the repose of my soul to be said publicly with open doors. Monasteries and convents. The priest in that Fermanagh will case in the witness box. No browbeating him. He had his answer pat for everything. Liberty and exaltation of our Holy Mother, the Church. The doctors of the Church, they mapped out the whole theology of it. Next, please.
The priest prayed, "Blessed Michael, Archangel, defend us in the hour of conflict. Be our safeguard against the wickedness and snares of the devil. May God restrain him, we humbly pray. And do thou, O Prince of the heavenly host, by the power of God, thrust Satan down to hell, and with him those other wicked spirits who wander to the world for the ruin of souls." The priest and the mass boy stood up and walked off. All over. The women remained behind. Thanksgiving. Better be shoving along. Brother Buzz, come round with the plate, perhaps. Pay your Easter duty. He stood up. Hello. With those 2 buttons of my waistcoat open all the time. Women enjoy it, and annoyed if you don't. Why didn't you tell me before? Never tell you, but excuse, miss, there's a, just a, fluff, or their skirt behind, placard unhooked, glimpses of the moon. Still, like you better untidy. Good job. It wasn't further south. He passed, discreetly buttoning, down the aisle and out through the main door into the light. He stood a moment unseeing by the cold black marble bowl, while before him and behind 2 worshippers dipped furtive hands in the low tide of holy water. Trams, a car of Prescott's dye works, a widow in her weeds. Notice, because I'm in mourning myself. He covered himself. How goes the time? 1:15. Time enough yet. Better get that lotion made up. Where is this? Ah, yes, the last time. Swinney's in Lincoln Place. Chemists rarely move. They're green and gold, beacon jars too heavy to stir. Hamilton Longs, founded in the year of the flood. Huguenot churchyard near there. Visit someday or that.
He walked southward along Westland Row, but the recipe is in the other trousers. Oh, and I forgot that latchkey too, for this funeral affair. Oh, well, poor fellow, it's not his fault. When was it I got it made up last? Wait, I changed a sovereign, I remember. 1st of the month it must have been, or the 2nd. Oh, he can look it up in the prescriptions book. The chemist turned back page after page. Sandy, shriveled smell he seems to have. Shrunken skull and old. Quest of philosopher's stone. The alchemists. Drugs lead you out of mendic silence. Lethargy then. Why? Reaction. A lifetime in a night. Gradually changes your character, living all the day among herbs, ointments, disinfectants, all his alabaster lily pots, mortar and pestle, aqua dist full or te virid, smell almost cure you like the dentist's doorbell. Dr. Whack. He ought to physic himself a bit, electuary or emulsion. The first fellow that picked an herb to cure himself had a bit of pluck. Simples. Want to be careful. Enough stuff here to chloroform you. Test. Turns blue litmus paper red. Chloroform. Overdose of laudanum. Sleeping draughts. Love philters. Paregoric poppy syrup, bad for cough. Clogs the pores or the phlegm. Poisons the only cures. Remedy where you least expect it. Clever of nature. Next, please. Gloria.
Gloria, you have to turn on your microphone. Yeah.
Sorry, I lost the paragraph.
Okay. About a fortnight, sir. It's on page 75 in Wordsworth.
Start, how would start, please?
Okay. About a fortnight, sir. It's about a quarter of the way down the page. And it says, about a fortnight ago, sir? Yes, Mr. Bloom said. He waited by the counter, inhaling the keen reek of drugs. Let me know when you see it, Gloria.
Sorry, I didn't find it, please.
Okay, so I'm gonna go
No,
on to
that's perfect.
Michiko. Are you ready? Do you know where we're
Okay.
reading? Yeah, please
Okay.
do.
The dusty, dry smell of sponges and loofahs. Lot of time taken up telling your aches and pains. Sweet almond oil and tincture of benzene, Mr. Bloom said, and then orange flower water. It certainly did make her skin so delicate while like wax. And white wax also, he said, brings out the darkness of her eyes. Looking at me, the sheet up to her eyes, Spanish, smelling herself, when I was fixing the links in my cuffs. Those homely recipes are often the best. Strawberries for the teeth, metals and rainwater, oatmeal, dishes steeped in buttermilk, skin food. One of the old Queen's sons, Duke of Albany, was it? Had only one skin. Leopold, yes. 3 we have. Warts, bunions, and pimples to make it worse. But you want a perfume too. What perfume does your that's
Hugh d'Espang.
That's fun. That orange flower, pure card soap. Water is so fresh. Nice smell these soaps have. Time to get the bath round the corner. Hammer. Turkish. Massage. That gets rolled up in your neighbor. Nicer if a nice girl did it. Also, I think I do it in the bath. Curious longing, water to water, combine business with pleasure. Pity no time for massage. Feel fresh then all day. Funeral be rather glum. Yes, sir, the chemist said. That was 2 and 9. Have you brought a bottle? No, Mr. Bloom said. Make it up, please. I'll call later in the day and I'll take one of those soaps. How much are they? 4 pence, sir. Mr. Bloom raised a cake to his nostrils. Sweet lemony works. I'll take this one, he said. That makes 3 and a penny. Yes, sir, the chemist said. You can pay all together, sir, when you come back. Good, Mr. Bloom said. He strolled out of the shop, the newspaper buttoned up under his armpit, the cool wrappered soap in his left hand. Next, please.
Okay. Gloria, are you ready? Do you know where we are? Or turn on your microphone.
Sorry, my dog's disturbing me myself. Sorry, my dog's bark. My God. Sorry.
At his armpit, Bantam Lion's voice and hand said, "Hello, Bloom. What's the best news?"
Thank you. Hello, Bloom. What's the best news? Is that today's show us a minute, shaved off his mustache again by Jove. Long cold up lip. To look younger, he does look balmy. Younger they I, but Lion's yellow, black-nailed fingers unrolled the button. Once I wash too. Take off the rough dirt. Good morning. Have you the peers soap? Don't rough off his shoulders. Scalp once oiling. I want to see about that French horse that's running today, Baton, Lions said. Where is the burger? Is it? He rustled the pleated pages, jerking his chin on his high collar. Barbie's tidy collar Hugh lows his hair. Better leave him the paper and get shut off him. You can't keep it, Mr. Blonde said. Scott, go the cup. Wait, Button Laios muttered. How fiamo, maximum the second. I was just going to throw it away, Mr. Blunt said. But Lyons raised his eyes suddenly, and leered weakly. What's that? His sharp voice said. I see you can keep it, Mr. Blunt answered. I was going to throw it away that moment, but Lyons thought an instant, leering, then thrust the outspread sheets back on Mr. Blunt's arms. Next, please.
I'll
Next.
risk it.
Yeah.
I'll risk
Mhm.
I'll risk it, he said. Here, thanks. He sped off towards Conway's corner. Godspeed, Scut. Mr. Bloom folded the sheets again in a neat square and lodged the soap in it, smiling. Silly lips of that chap, betting. Regular hotbed of it lately. Messenger boys stealing to put on sixpence. Raffle for large tender turkey. Your Christmas dinner for threepence. Jack Fleming embezzling to gamble, then smuggled off to America. Keeps a hotel now. They never come back. Flesh pots of Egypt. He walked cheerfully towards the Mosque of the Baths. Remind you of a mosque, red-baked bricks, the minarets. College sports today, I see. He eyed the horseshoe poster over the gate of College Park. Cyclist, doubled up like a cod in a pot. Damn bad ad. Now, if they had made it round like a wheel, then the spokes, sports, 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 and the hub big, college. Something to catch the eye. There's Hornblower standing at the porter's lodge. Keep him on hands. Might take a turd in there on the nod. How do you do, Mr. Hornblower? How do you do, sir? Heavenly weather, really. If life was always like that, cricket weather. Sit around under sunshades, over and over, out. They can't play it here. Duck the 6 wickets. Still, Captain Culler broke a window in the Kildare Street Club with a slug to a square leg. Donnybrook fan more in their line. And the skulls we were attacking when McCarthy took the floor. Heat wave. Won't last. Always passing, the stream of life, which in the stream of life we trace, is dearer than all. Enjoy a bath now. Clean trough of water, cool enamel, a gentle tepid stream. This is my body. He foresaw his pale body, reclined in it at full, naked, in a womb of warmth, oiled by scented, melting soap, softly laid. He sat his trunk and limbs rippled over and sustained, buoyed lightly upward, lemon yellow, his navel butter flesh, and saw the dark tangled curls of his bush floating hair of the stream around the limp father of thousands, a languid, floating flower.
Good.
Next.
Yeah, let's just take 10 seconds and then our final 2 readers will continue with the next section. Okay. So I guess that's you, Dave.
Martin Cunningham first poked his silk-hatted head into the creaking carriage and, entering deftly, seated himself. Mr. Power stepped in after him, curbing his height with care. Come on, Simon. After you, Mr. Bloom said. Mr. Dedalus covered himself quickly and got in, saying, Yes, yes. Are we all here now? Martin Cunningham asked. Come along, Bloom. Mr. Bloom entered and sat in the vacant place. He pulled the door after him and slammed it twice till it shut tight. He passed an arm through the arm strap and looked seriously from the open carriage window at the lowered blinds of the avenue. One dragged aside, an old woman peeping, nose white flattened against the pane. Thanking her stars, she was passed over. Extraordinary the interest they take in a corpse. Glad to see us go when we give them such trouble coming. Job, it seems to suit them. Hugger-mugger in corners. Slop about in slipper-slappers for fear he'd wake. Then getting it ready. Laying it out. Molly and Mrs. Fleming making the bed. Pull it more to your side. Our winding sheet. Never know who will touch you dead. Wash and shampoo. I believe they clip the nails in the hair. Keep a bit in an envelope. Grows all the same after. Unclean job. All waited. Nothing was said. Stowing the wreaths, probably. I am sitting on something hard. Ah, that soap in my hip pocket. Better shift it out of that. Wait for an opportunity. All waited. Then wheels were heard from in front, turning. Then nearer, then horses' hoofs. A jolt. Their carriage began to move, creaking and swaying. Other hoofs and creaking wheels started behind. The blinds of the avenue passed, and number 9, with its craped knocker, door ajar, at a walking pace. They waited still, their knees jogging, till they turned and were passing along the tram tracks. Tritonville Road, quicker. The wheels rattled, rolling over the cobbled causeway, and the crazy glasses shook, rattling in the door frames. "What way is he taking us?" Mr. Power asked through both windows. "Irish Town," Martin Cunningham said. "Rings End, Brunswick Street." Mr. Dedalus nodded, looking out. "Jim?"
That's a fine old custom," he said. "I'm glad to see it has not died out." All watched a while through the windows, caps and hats lifted by passers. Respect. The carriage swerved from the tram track to the smoother road past Watery Lane. Mr. Bloom, at gaze, saw a lithe young man clad in mourning, a wide hat. "That's a friend of yours gone by, Dedalus," he said. "Who is that?" "Your son and heir." "Where is he?" Mr. Dedalus said, stretching over across. The carriage passing the open drains and mounds of ripened dung roadway before the tenement houses lurched around the corner and, swerving back to the tram track, rolled on noisily with chattering wheels. Mr. Dedalus fell back, saying, "Was that Mulligan cad with him? His Fidus Acades." "No," Mr. Bloom said, "he was alone." "Down with his aunt Sally, I suppose," Mr. Dedalus said. "The Goulding faction, the drunken little costraw and crispy papa's little lump of dung, the wise child that knows her own father." Mr. Bloom smiled joyously on Rings End Road. Wallace Brothers and the Bottle Works, Dodder Bridge, Richie Goulding and the legal bag, Goulding, Collis and Ward, he called the firm. His jokes are getting a bit damp. Great card he was. That's it, I think. Is it my last?
Sorry, I was on mute. Yes, you were the final reader there, Jim.
Thanks,
So
Duncan.
when we meet again next week, we're actually going to begin at the beginning of the Hades chapter that Dave and Jim just read. I kind of like this technique myself, which is when we have the time, we just slide into the next chapter in the reading to give everybody a chance to do the second reading. But then the next week going back to the beginning of that section. And I don't know, I frankly don't know how long we will be able to do that. I think the chapters start getting a little longer, but we'll do it as often as possible. So, thank you all. I thought everybody was in fine reading shape today. Questions, comments, whatever.
Well, I have a question.
Good.
When I read this last week, and then the next day I thought about it, I said, what is the mass about? Is that the requiem mass for the dead guy? or is it just a mass? And if it's just a mass, does Bloom just show up at mass whenever he feels like it, or is it the requiem? There seemed to be nothing in what the priest said that made me think it was a requiem mass.
It's not. That's not a requiem mass.
So Bloom just shows up at church periodically for mass.
He was just spending time, so he was nearby when he went in the back door.
He
He's a better.
Lois, he
He's there to
collected.
school women.
Well, I know he's looking to see if he can catch their skirts being caught up, but
I think this is a hilarious passage. His perspective on the Mass as a Jew and a non-Catholic. It functions as distanciation. It makes the Mass and everything that goes with it appear really strange. And I think it's a wonderful technique.
except he is a Catholic, isn't he? Didn't we determine that he is a Catholic? I know he was originally a Jew, but
He's not a Jew. He's not a Catholic.
He's Catholic.
No, I think Lois is right. I think he is a Catholic in name.
I think he is too.
In name,
But
yes,
obviously never
because
had
of
any
Molly.
training.
Yes,
Never had
right.
any training.
Mr. Bloom is a Jew, is he not?
It's a name, but he's not Jewish.
No.
He's not.
He
He's not
just-
He's Jewish descent.
really.
Somewhere in his past, somebody is Catholic. Or
His mom is Higgins. What's her
Yeah.
first name? Help me out.
Ellen.
Ellen Higgins. Thank you.
Ellen Higgins.
I
and
think-
she's
Ellen Higgins,
Protestant.
a Protestant, I believe.
Yes.
And then I think he converts to marry Molly. Am I correct
Yeah.
on that?
That
Yes.
is correct.
yes.
Yeah.
So
That
he-
sounds familiar, yeah.
But the fun, and to come back to what Susan, to come back to what Susan said, I think the fun is in the book. I mean, it's funny and it's very serious. For instance, in the Cyclops chapter, he gets pegged as a Jew, but he doesn't know much about Judaism. Really, he knows some. He was born a Protestant, I think, because in Jewish tradition you get your religion through your mother. But he's converted to Catholicism, and he doesn't know much about that. Like INRA,
Nothing.
iron nails run in. I mean, that is hilarious if you were raised Catholic to have that interpretation.
And he thinks that Easter duty is something you have to pay, right? You don't pay your Easter duty, you do your Easter duty, which is a certain amount of going to communion and confession during the Easter season. It's a
In
duty upon
Ireland,
you.
we pay duties.
Oh, really?
No, we pay.
Well, we
pay
don't,
Jews.
but we're meant to.
No,
Jews.
we paid Easter Jews and we pay Christmas Jews.
Ah.
DUES.
Gotcha. I didn't know that. Thank
I
you.
didn't know that either.
Oh.
Yeah.
He just didn't want to face a collection plate of any kind.
Right. But again, I think the point also.
No. This is extra. This is not the collection plate. This is
No,
something.
this is something
that's
else.
posted, that's dropped into your house. An envelope that's dropped into your house, and it's marked Easter Jews
Oh,
and
okay.
Christmas Jews.
Okay.
You put the money in the envelope, and then you bring it to the church on Sunday, Easter Sunday or Christmas Day, as the case may be.
And then there's also something called Peter's Pence. I assume that's what
That's
he's
right.
referring to by the
That's a
PT.
separate collection.
Yeah.
We mustn't forget that the church was one of the things James Joyce and Stephen Dedalus are escaping. So, and it's apparent from one of his remarks that Molly doesn't know much about Catholicism either. And anyway.
But I think somebody pointed it out too, that, and it just occurred to me, I never thought about it, but he just kind of randomly wanders into the church. And that's kind of funny too. I mean, it's just sort of part of his day, kind of, he pokes around here and there, kind of like a dog out on his walk, and part of it just wanders into the church and makes a few rather humorous observations,
It's a hot day, and the church is a public place, and it's
That's true.
probably cool inside.
Good point.
And,
That wouldn't be that unusual, I don't think. Being in Ireland, every time you'd pop into a church, and if there was a service going on, you'd observe, or you might just light a candle or something. That would be quite okay. Would be quite acceptable here.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's curious. He plans to visit a Protestant church for comparison someday. So I think he's interested in religious matters without knowing any of the dogma.
And is this Westland Row church that he goes into?
Mm-hmm.
And
I think that it is because he's walked down Westland Row. I actually walked down that Westland Row myself this summer and went into the church for the first time ever after I bought a bar of lemon soap from PJ.
In Sweeney's.
Yes, at Sweeney's.
Yes.
and there's a reference.
I think
they're calling it All Hallows, but then it's St. Andrew's, which they are considering turning into the pro-cathedral. Is that right? They're going to turn it into the more significant church in Dublin.
But is there not a pro-cathedral already, Orla?
The one over in Marlborough Street, they're going to move. That's not going to be as significant, and they're going to move it to the one St. Andrew's.
No.
What's called All Hallows there, because I was getting a bit confused, because I thought All Hallows was in Drumcondra.
I think there is an All Hallows in Drumcondra.
Yeah, but the last time we did this, All Hallows is round Trinity or somewhere, isn't it?
It's St. Andrew's if it's on Western Road.
But is All Hallows a different place? Joe's nodding.
No, it's not. It's the same place. All Hallows was the name of the monastery that was there on the site of Trinity. And the church was built as St. Andrew's then, but the locals still call it All Hallows at the time. So it's the same. What's happening there is he has come out of the post office with this very private letter, and he turns right. He goes to the corner and turns right again. He's looking for a quiet place. And he's in Cumberland Street then, which is very quiet. Under the railway bridge, he opens the letter. He's there, tears up the envelope. You get a fine nowadays for throwing it away. And he takes a shortcut through the church to get back. And that's his reason for going into the church. And I think, Susan, last week was that you were talking about how many of these buildings are there. And that's one tour you can do. You can still go turn right under the railway bridge. And if you're looking, the back door of the church, which is now a gate with an altar inside it, is usually kept closed for vandalism reasons. But if it's open, as it can be around Bloomsday, you can make the trip that Bloom made through. And it's really interesting to do. Because the steps are all worn from age and so on. And then you come out the front. So he's just going back to where he ends up about 10 feet away from where the post office was where he started. He just was one loop and through. So he's just taking a shortcut.
Thank you for that inside information, Joe. I will.
The question you asked, there's a book. If you wanted, now that's the standard book people use. Fantastic for tours. Tours through Joyce's Dublin, and it's by Nicholson, who was the director of the Joyce Tower. Is he still? I think he's gone a while, and that lets you do the tours on your own, and it's got 8 tours in it. Now, some of those you'd want to bring your walking shoes, but he intersperses to quotations from Ulysses, so you're not trying to read 2 books at the same time, as you walk. So that's it. But that's one you can do, and it's lovely. And you get this idea, because when you come out of the church, you see Swinney's. It's like a little temple at the other end of the road, glittering in the white in the sunlight, and that's the kind of the center of chemical illusion and disillusion that every pharmacist is. So,
And speaking of illusion and disillusion, etc., do we know who wrote the naughty boy letter to Leopold Bloom?
Martha Clifford.
Martha Clifford.
And
That's who it is.
what's the story with Martha Clifford? Who is she?
Oh.
Anyone of significance?
Oh.
There's a great article you could Google, or you get it on JSTOR, called "The Unveiling of Martha Clifford." By a fella,
Okay.
It's around 1974, I think. It was in the James Joyce Quarterly, one of the journals. And
Okay.
he comes up with a theory which identifies Martha Clifford.
Okay,
And,
I'll do that.
The Unveiling of Martha Clifford.
The Unveiling of Martha Clifford. Great.
And you see the girls are there at the church with the veils, I suppose. He comes up with one particular conclusion. There are other points of view. Some people think it's Molly. So there you go. I won't ruin it for you by telling you the answer.
Okay, Joe. Thank you.
So
My skepticism may
the
be
tour book on the chat, please? Could you put the name of that tour book on the chat, please?
Oh, I will, of course. Yes, thanks for that, Dave. I will do that. Okay.
Yeah, I just looked it up. I'm perhaps being a little too modern, but I mean, there's no guarantee that actually Martha Clifford, we don't really know whether she is male or female.
Or a dog.
Bring in a
Because
modern
no one
point of
knows
view.
you're a dog on the internet, so she could be a dog.
And so we don't know what pronoun to use.
Well, no, I'm just bringing that in because, all he has for evidence is the letters.
Mm-hmm.
And he answered, a typist. I'm sure that was a bit of a code in the personals, because personals have been going on a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And certainly in Austin, Texas, the personals for probably the last 30 or 40 years, there's no telling what you're really getting into when you answer a personal. So, I don't know. Maybe there's other
I know, but Martha Clifford just doesn't seem to be bothered that Bloom is married. So he has been honest with her. Just what did they get out of it?
I get the impression that occasionally Bloom gets something out of these correspondences. This is not the first. I don't think Martha Clifford is not the first person that he's corresponded with.
No, he's got 44 respondents.
44?
44, we find out later, yeah.
Oh, wow. I certainly missed that bit of knowledge.
Yeah, this is his 45th. But the question arises of why any woman would reply to a person who's using the name Henry Flower. Because there was a murder in 1900 of a maid. And the man arrested for it was Henry Flower.
Oh, wow.
Right.
Tastes are very peculiar. I mean, I know one of America's most heinous serial killers was adored by many women. And after he was captured and put in jail, he had a lively correspondence going on with women that were attracted to his type of craziness. So no accounting for taste has been. But it is curious that Bloom himself would use Henry Flower. Nope. Did Joe just disappear?
Yes, he's been raptured.
Um, yeah.
Anybody want to comment about Mrs. Miriam Bloom reading the cards, obviously, and indulging in some sort of fortune telling?
Doesn't that come up afterwards when in the last episode? Did she refer back to the cards that she was reading in the morning?
I think so. I think so. Mm-hmm.
Sounds.
Mm-hmm. There's always these echoes. I mean, like it mentions the horse he passed the cabin shelter, and there's a horse thing that happens there, and probably the chances are that the horse that he and Stephen Dedalus pass by late in the wee hours of the next morning is the same horse.
Exactly. Oh, that's it. I sorry, I was Googling because I remember hearing this before. Barag, Bloom's father's name before he changed it. In Hungarian, it means flower.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
So that's why he would have used that name, Henry Flower. But I was just checking to see was my memory correct.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The Henry part I don't know, but Barag means flower.
And I just checked the Penelope chapter, and there is a reference to the cards. Oh, yes, he was on the cards, a dark, handsome person, sort of thing. So, yeah.
And that's referring to Stephen Dedalus. Is that what that references to?
I think so. Yes.
Yeah. Which any one of these in themselves is not so important, but I think really fun to be aware of the fact that many
that they keep coming up
echoed throughout the different episodes. So we're really, this is really a three-dimensional reading adventure.
Right. This book is very well knit together, isn't it?
It is. It's incredibly time-wise and space-wise, and getting different points of view on a number of the facts. It's just wonderful that way.
But do you know the thing that made me laugh? You know that exchange that he has near the end of the chapter with the guy who wanted to see his paper.
Yeah, with Bantam.
Yeah.
And I was going to throw away the paper, and then later on it comes up in the pub when the horse is called Throwaway.
Yeah.
Right.
This is, in a chapter going forward, we haven't, but I just thought that, and it was repeated. That just made me smile.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it causes him a lot of grief in the in the Cyclops chapter.
Absolutely.
Was that the horse that won the Gold Cup or something?
Yes,
Yeah.
20-1 odds. That's why they think that Bloom. That's why later on in the book, in the book, a whole bunch of people think that Bloom made a lot of money, and they get really angry at him for not buying around at the pub,
Yeah.
to celebrate his good fortune. And in the Ithaca chapter, when there is a thing where Blazes Boyland, who had bought a ticket and lost because Throwaway won, the blazes boiling, took his horse racing betting ticket and tore it into little tiny pieces and abandoned it in Bloom's apartment.
Wow. Mm.
I love McCoy's description of how he found out about the death of Paddy Dignam. What's wrong with him? He's dead. He's dead. And face he filled up, you could see.
Yeah,
Oh, it's just so funny.
Which is an echo of Bob Doran later when Bob Doran
Yeah.
does the same thing.
Yeah, they took the liberty of burying him, this morning. I love it. And then there's this other one. McCoy is asking about this the concert in Belfast. And he says, "That's so," McCoy said. "Glad to hear that, old man. Who's getting it up?" And that comes up a few times as well.
Yeah, and who was mentioning that the meaning of up?
Remember there was a thing you pick up. Yeah, remember.
Are you thinking of Dennis Breen? UP?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's actually behind all that, there was an actual, it was kind of a slang thing that was going on, that when you talked about getting it up or up, that there's, I can't remember what it was. My head has not grasped onto it, but I do know there is a meaning to it.
Well, if this is what you're driving at, the meaning from my misspent childhood was to have an erection. Is that what you're driving at?
No, there's more than that.
No, it's a different one.
Yeah,
Okay.
that is one of the meanings, but there's more than that to get something up. Yeah, I'll just try to remember to find out what I've forgotten.
So it's not the equivalent of what we would, the American expression, to put something on, like a show.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't. I know. Joe, do you know what?
The theatre, yeah. He's gone.
Scholars are divided on it.
Scholars are divided. Fancy that.
There's no definite answer to it, I would lean towards David's explanation.
Okay.
Sorry about my power cut there, folks. I'd better type this chat thing again this time, and I'll be quiet until it's done.
Okay, yeah, well, I noticed you had disappeared, and here you are, you're back again. That happened to me several times yesterday. My internet connection was just terrible.
I just lost power here. The whole house.
The whole house?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It was like one of those Houston, we have a problem moments, so you a black screen.
Yeah. I also enjoyed the fact, we have early in this chapter, we had the thing about Mary lost the pen of her drawers, blah, blah, blah. And then it comes up again when Bloom is in the church looking at the priest and says, suppose he lost a pen of his, he wouldn't know what to do. So Bloom is kind of a wonderful space cadet. He's got all these random things floating through his head as he looks at the world. Of course, I could say that goes for me too.
I think a few of us are guilty of that. Okay, thank you. I'm going to copy that.
Thank you very much. We are.
Book. Oh, I have this book. Very good.
Yeah, I have it as well. It's really good.
Yeah, that's what everyone uses. It's very reliable, and you can do your own tours, and you and a friend, and you can just go wandering around, and there's a lot of stuff there. But if you're lucky to get into the church that way, it's a really nice trip. Kind of.
I never week I will just wanted to let people know I will be traveling in southern Italy and may have trouble joining.
Uh-huh. Okay.
I
Enjoy.
also will be.
People
I
to
will be
hate-
away next week. I'll be away next week, so I'll miss you guys till the
Okay.
13th
Oh,
or
dear.
14th. I'll be back
We're going to Hades.
Yeah, I know.
in a handbasket.
It's a pretty good read.
Well, actually, if you're going to southern Italy and you make it to Sicily, wasn't Etna in classical mythology thought to be the kind of entryway, or am I pulling that one out of my ear?
The entryway to hell.
To hell, to Hades.
It is.
What was it, or is this just something
Mount Etna? Are you talking about
Yes,
Mount
yes, exactly.
Etna?
Or am I just inventing this out of whole cloth?
It makes sense. It makes sense
But I'm
for
not going there anyway, Dave.
Okay.
I'm going to Puglia. And
Puglia.
anyway,
anyway. Well,
the week I'll be in Paris. So that's one of the many advantages of using the Kindle. So if I
Yeah.
don't have to lug this big book around with me.
yeah.
And I will stop noticing that or remarking on this, but the text on the Kindle deviates so much from the one you are using. I thought at some point somebody was reading a different book. I
Yes.
couldn't, I got so lost trying to
Well,
figure
it's
out.
probably someone reading from Gabler. I don't know who's reading from. I know Lois reads from Gabler, and the Gabler text can be quite different.
Okay.
So just be aware of that. I
There were
believe
2 points in today's reading where it differed,
Yes.
because I was reading Gabler and what the readers were reading was skipping certain sentences that I had.
Yeah, and there was a paragraph, Lois, where the order of some of the sentences was switched.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
yeah.
Okay.
Well, Gabler's are very controversial. And although I think that his changes, as far as I can tell, were based on something legitimate, he did have kind of a mission which was to find enough changes that Stephen Joyce could copyright that edition and keep earning money from it, because the original edition was going out of copyright. Now, that's a very controversial thing, but John McCourt certainly seems to agree with that theory, as do some others. So, I think it's perfect. I think it's exactly what Joyce wanted. Joyce is trying to say the world is a messy place. Facts are messy. The reasons that people do things are messy. And that's just part of what we need to accept if we're going to live a reasonably contented life. It's a mess. Among other things, it's also glorious. It's also home. Okay, lots of fun.
See you next time.
Very, very
Thank you.
much. Those of you
Bye-bye.
who make it,
Safe trip, Susan. Safe trip.
Thank you. I will be in Dublin for 5 days around Bloomsday, staying with my friend Sylvie Levasseur, who I sent her a list of the names of people I assume are speaking from Dublin, and she knew almost all of you, or knew of you, or your reputation.
Yep.
So I'm.
What's her name?
Her name is Sylvie Levasseur. She runs an au pair agency, and her husband is Giles, and her son is Jules and Miles. Anyway,
Don't know her.
staying with her. I will maybe pass on the address nearer the time. Anyway, bye. See you next week. I hope.
Bye.
Bye.
Whoever's here, the reading of the Hades section will also be lots of fun and very interesting. On that note, I will say goodbye and click the red button that ends the meeting. Bye-bye.